reading second chapter of class 12, that is some basic concepts of macroeconomics. So first we have to understand what is domestic territory. Domestic territory includes the boundary which is under the administration of our government, where all the goods, capital, people circulate freely. Okay. Domestic territory is a very important concept in national income accounting. In layman's language, domestic territory means the political frontier of a country. However, the purpose of national income accounting, it is used in a very wider sense. So domestic territory includes all those territory which is under the administration of our government, where all the people circulate freely, okay, without any tax, without any tariffs, etc. So the things which we include in domestic territory are, first, ships and aircraft, okay, owned and operated by normal residents of our country. For example, a ship which is operated between two countries, like let us suppose Russia and Japan. Okay, the ship is operated between Russia and Japan, but the ship is owned by an Indian resident. So whatever income which is generated by that ship will be a part of our domestic territory. What are the things that we don't include in domestic territory? For example, let's talk about an embassy. The embassy of Japan, which is in India, which is running in India, okay, but it is in India, but the people of the embassy are from Japan and the embassy is from Japan, so it will not be included in our domestic territory. But same, when the people from Japan or when an Indian embassy is in Japan, okay, so that embassy or whatever the people who are earning, that is a part of domestic territory. Okay, now we will be talking about normal resident. Normal residents are of two types: citizenship and residentship. First of all, it is very important to understand what is normal resident. Normal resident of a country refers to an individual or an institution who works within the territory of a country whose economic interests lie in that country. Okay. For example, a person who came from US, okay, who is residing in India from last 2 years, who is working in India, and whatever the money that he is earning, he is spending that money also in India. So he is a normal resident. Okay, so foreign, and who are the persons which are not a part of normal resident? So there are many tourists who are coming to India, but their economic interest doesn't lie in India. So they are not a part of, they are not normal resident. Now there are two types of normal resident. One is citizenship and one is residentship. What is citizenship? Citizenship refers to a person, okay, who is in India, who is living in India and who got the citizenship of India. Citizenship is the birthright of an individual. Okay, citizenship is a birthright of an individual. Like I was born in India, so I have the citizenship of India. Other than that, a person who is living in India from many years and who have applied for Indian citizenship can also be an Indian citizenship. But residentship is very different. Residentship means the person who is living in India, okay, but he is not a normal citizen of our country, but his economic interest lies in our country. If his economic interest lies in our country and he is in India from last 1 year, so it is a part of, he is a resident of India. He have residentship. So all the person who have citizenship have residentship, but all the person who have residentship does not mean they have citizenship. And many Indians who have citizenship in India, but they are not in India, they are in any other country, so they don't have any residentship in India. Is it clear? Now our next topic will be factor income. What is factor income? In last chapter, in circular flow of income, we read about the factor payments and factor income. Factor incomes are those income which are earned by an individual after doing some production work. Okay, factor incomes are those income which are earned or received by factor production. For an example, the household sector, whatever the services they are giving, like land, labor, capital, and whatever the money they are earning on that land, labor, capital, it is a part of factor income. Factor income includes rent, wages, interest, and profit. Okay, factor incomes are of the normal residents of our country. Now, what is transfer income? Transfer income is a unilateral concept. Okay, transfer incomes are the income which are not earned by producing anything. It does not include any production. Okay, for example, we can say old age pensions. Now, old age pension which is given to the old citizens of a nation, it is a part of transfer income. We can say scholarship, the scholarship which is given to our students. Okay, they are not producing anything, but then also they are getting some sort of income. It is a part of transfer income. We can say gifts. Gifts are also a part of transfer income. We can say unemployment allowances. They are not doing anything, but then also they are getting the part of transfer. They are also getting some income. So it is a part of transfer income. So the major difference between factor income and transfer income is it refers to income which is earned by producing something, and it refers to that income which is received by without rendering any productive service. Okay, it is an earning concept. The factor income is an earning concept, and it is an receipt concept. It is an receipt concept. It is included in national income and domestic income. It does not include in national income and domestic income. Is it clear what is factor income and national income? So these are the major difference between factor income and transfer income. Okay, now we will be talking about final goods and intermediate goods. What are final goods and what are intermediate goods? First, final goods. Final goods refers to those goods. Final goods refers to those goods which are either used for consumption, okay, which are either used for consumption or for producing something. For example, we can say goods purchased by an individual household or a consumer household. Okay, for their use. For example, we can say milk. It is a final good. Goods purchased by firm for capital formation. For example, we can say a good which is purchased by a firm like machinery for producing furthermore goods. So it is again a part of final good. Now what is intermediate good? Intermediate goods refers to those goods which are either for resale or for, we can say, using for the current same year. Okay, if we are using any good for the same year, it is the intermediate good. We can say, for example, goods which are purchased for resale. Goods which are purchased for resale, it is a part of intermediate good. For example, milk, etc. Okay, goods used for further production, like we are using the milk. We are using milk for making sweets, etc. It is again a part of intermediate goods. Now there are some important points about the intermediate goods. The first and most important point is they have derived demand. What they have? They have a derived demand. That is, their demand depends on other goods for, like, it is means these goods are not complete goods. Their demand depends on any other goods for production. Is it clear? For making it final. Okay, they are generally purchased by one production unit from one production unit to another production unit. Okay, intermediate goods are produced or purchased by one production unit from any another production unit. It can be durable goods and it can be we can say semi-durable goods. So is it clear what is the difference what is final goods and intermediate goods? Now there is two we can say the major difference between final goods and intermediate goods is production boundary. Production boundary refers to, we can say, when a good is under the production boundary. The goods is under the production boundary. It is a part of intermediate good. But when a good comes out from the production boundary, it becomes a final good. Now our next topic will be consumption goods and capital goods. So consumption good. What is consumption good? It is very easy. Consumption goods are those goods which are consumed by the consumer. Whatever goods which are consumed by the consumer is a part of consumption goods. Okay, consumption goods refers to the goods which satisfy our needs. It is consumption goods. There are four types of consumption goods: durable goods, semi-durable goods, non-semi-durable goods, non-durable goods, and last one is services. Durable goods are those goods which can be used for a longer period of time. For example, refrigerator, television, air conditioner, etc. Semi-durable goods are those goods which have a duration of, we can say, not as much as durable. It can be used for a long period of time, but not as like durable. For example, we can say clothes. Clothes can be used for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year maximum. Crockery can be used. Okay, crockery is again an example of semi-durable. Non-durable. Non-durable goods are those goods which can be used for one time. Okay, or more, which cannot be used more than once. Okay, for example, we can say food, milk, grain, etc. Then last one is services. Services refers to non-material goods which directly satisfy the human needs. Services refers to non-material goods which directly refers to which directly satisfy the personal human needs. For example, the services which are given by ourselves, that is a teacher, it is a part of services. Doctors, it is a part of services. Now capital goods are those final goods. Capital goods are those final goods which help in production of other goods. वो गुड जो दूसरे गुड्स को प्रोड्यूस करने में हेल्प करते हैं, दे आर द पार्ट ऑफ कैपिटल गुड. फॉर एग्जांपल मशीनरीज, प्लांट्स, एटसेट्रा. They are used in future. They are used for future purposes. They are used for future purposes. Is it clear? They do not. We can say these goods are used for making other products like machineries, okay, etc. All we can say about this, they need repairs or replacement over time. Okay, time पे इनको हमें क्या करना पड़ता है? रिपेयर करना पड़ता है. time पे हमें रिप्लेस भी करना पड़ता है. They have derived demand. Means they have derived demand. Their demands depend on raw materials. When these products are used for raw materials, or when these products are used with raw materials, then only this capital goods comes in. Okay, this capital goods is useful. Now, how can we classify a good as consumption good and capital good? So first of all, there is no clear-cut demarcation between capital good and consumption good. Okay, as a same good can be consumption good and a same good can be a capital good. For example, a stitching machine which is used by a tailor, okay, it is a capital good. But the same stitching machine which is used at home, it is a consumption good. So consumption good, whatever goods that we are using for our personal use, it is consumption good, and whatever good which we are not using for our personal use, it is capital good. For example, they do not promote production activity and they help in production activity. Is it clear what is consumption good and capital good? Okay, now we'll be reading our next topic, gross investment. But before starting gross investment, let's understand the meaning of investment. Investment or capital formation refers to the capital addition of the capital stock. It refers to the addition of capital stock in an economy. For example, construction of a building, production of a machinery, etc. Okay, so investment refers to the capital formation or to the addition in the capital formation or capital stock of an economy. Investment are of two types, gross investment and net investment. Investment are of two types, that is gross investment and net investment. Gross investment is addition of the stock of capital before making allowances or depreciation, etc. For example, whatever the capital assets we have, whatever the capital assets or unsold stock we have, it is a part of gross investment. Gross investment includes depreciation. Now what is net investment? Net investment is the actual addition made to the capital stock of an economy at a given period of time. Okay, it does not include depreciation. We can say the difference between gross investment and net, we can say net investment equals to gross investment minus depreciation. So, is it clear? Gross investment means whatever the addition we have done, okay, to the economy in the form of capital assets or unsold stock. Net investment again meaning the same, but here it is the actual investment by deducting depreciation. Now what is depreciation? Okay, depreciation refers to the cost or whatever the cost which I have incurred on using the machinery. For example, if you are using a machinery, any machinery or any fixed asset you are using, so that machinery or fixed asset will reduce, या जो भी उसकी actual value क्या होती जाएगी, कम होती जाएगी. It is, we can say it refers to the fall in the value of fixed asset due to normal wear and tear cost. Is it clear? Depreciation, आप कोई भी चीज को अगर यूज कर रहे हो, उस चीज को यूज करने पर उस चीज की जो उस मशीन की जो वैल्यू कम हो रही है उसे हम क्या बोलते हैं? डेप्रिसिएशन. एंड डेप्रिसिएशन इज कॉस्ट या डेप्रिसिएशन असेट्स का जो होता है उसके मेनली तीन रीजन होते हैं. द फर्स्ट रीजन इज नॉर्मल वियर एंड टियर. नॉर्मली अगर आप किसी भी मशीन को यूज कर रहे हो, ज्यादा से ज्यादा यूज करोगे तो उस मशीन की क्या होने वाली है? वैल्यू कम होते जानी है. पैसेज ऑफ टाइम, एज यू आर यूजिंग अ थिंग फॉर अ ईयर, फॉर अ सेकेंड ईयर, थर्ड ईयर, तो अपने आप ही उसकी वैल्यू क्या होती जाएगी? कम होती जाएगी. एंड लास्ट वन इज एक्सपेक्टेड ऑब्सोलेंस. थोड़े टाइम बाद वट एवर द मशीन दैट यू आर यूजिंग, वो क्या हो जाएगी? खराब हो जाएगी. So that is expected obsolescence. Now there is a difference between depreciation and capital loss. Depreciation refers to fall in the value of fixed asset due to normal wear and tear cost, and capital loss means the loss in the asset or in the machinery due to any natural calamity, or we can say any accident जिसके कारण that machine becomes obsolete, जो machine किसी काम की नहीं रही. We can say for depreciation we can make provisions for depreciation, but for capital loss we cannot make any depreciation. Okay, depreciation does not hamper the production process. Why it does not hamper the production process? Because we know कि थोड़े टाइम बाद मशीन खराब होने वाली है, and we have made the provisions and which we can use those provisions for buying a new machinery. But capital loss can hamper the production process. Why? Because अगर एक बार में हमारी मशीन खराब हो गई, and what will happen? We will be not having anything to make or do any further production. Now we will be reading about the next topic, that is net indirect taxes. Net indirect taxes refers to the difference between indirect tax and subsidy. Net indirect tax refers to the difference between indirect tax and subsidies. What is indirect tax? Whatever tax which is applied by the government, whatever tax which are imposed by government on the normal citizens or the institutions, industries, etc. It is a part of indirect tax. For example, we can say GST. GST is a part of indirect tax. For example, if you are buying a product, or if you are buying a product of 5,000, you have to pay 10% GST, so that will be 5,500. And what are the subsidies? Subsidies refers to the economic assistance which is given by government to the citizens of our nation. There are many citizens who cannot buy many different things. Okay, so government help them by providing some economic assistance which is known as subsidies. For example, when you are buying an LPG gas cylinder, government is providing in subsidies, as it is a basic need which is required by all the people, and it is and many people cannot afford it, so they are providing subsidies on it. Okay, now after reading about this, there are two different type of things that you have to read, that is factor price and market price. First, what is factor price? Factor price, also known as factor cost. Okay, it refers to the amount paid for the factors of production. मतलब कोई भी चीज exactly कितने रुपए में बनी है, वो उसका exact क्या होता है? factor price होता है, factor of cost होता है. For example, we have made a cloth. Cloth को बनाने के लिए we have used raw materials of 500 rupees. Okay, we have used the raw material of 500 rupees. We have used 100. We can say we have given 200 rupees to labor, 200 rupees for machineries that we have used, 100 rupees for electricity bill, etc. The total cost that is of that product will be 1000. Factor cost will be 1000 rupees. Now, when we brought this product into the market, okay, तो मार्केट के अंदर जब हम प्रोडक्ट को लेके आएंगे तो सबसे पहले हम इसका क्या करेंगे? 200 हमारा प्रॉफिट ऐड करके, लेट अस सपोज द प्रोडक्ट प्राइस विल बी 1200. ओके, मार्केट के अंदर जब वो प्रोडक्ट आएगा तो फर्स्ट वी हैव टू पे दैट इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट. ओके, एंड आफ्टर दैट इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स, उसके बाद क्या होगा? हमारे को सब्सिडीज मिलेगी. किससे मिलेगी? सब्सिडीज गवर्नमेंट से मिलेगी. ओके, तो लेट अस सपोज 1200 का प्रोडक्ट था, उस पर 100 रुपीज का इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स लगा और 50 रुपीज की हमें सब्सिडी मिल गई, तो हमारा प्रोडक्ट कितने में बिकेगा मार्केट के अंदर? 1215 रुपीज. So this is net indirect tax, that is indirect tax minus subsidy. Now we will be reading our last topic, that is net factor income from abroad. Net factor income from abroad, in short we can say NFIFN. What is NFIFN? It refers to the difference between factor income that is earned from abroad minus factor income to abroad, whatever income that we are sending to other countries. Okay, so net factor income refers to the difference between factor income from abroad and factor income to abroad. Now, what is factor income from abroad? Factor income from abroad means there are normal residents of our country who are living in any other country, okay, who are working in rest of the world, and whatever income they are generating or earning from rest of the world, it is included in factor income from abroad. Then there are many people from rest of the world who are living in India, who are the non-residents of our country, and whatever income we are sending outside our nation, it is a part of factor income to abroad. It is clear the difference between factor income from abroad and factor income to abroad is known as net factor income from abroad. And this three things, and this is again included in national income. Is it clear? So there are three components of NFIFA, that is net factor income from abroad. The first one is compensation to employees. Okay, whatever the compensation or whatever the compensations our employees are getting, or whatever the work they are doing in abroad, so whatever income they are getting, it is net compensation to employee. Then next is net income from entrepreneurship or property. Okay, for example, whatever properties Indian is having in any rest of the world, so whatever income he is getting from that, it is a part of FIFA. And whatever income we are paying, it is a part of FIFA. And last one is non-retained earning. Whatever income is earned by the citizen of our nation, okay, and which is there in, or we can say in any of the abroad country, and whatever investment they have earned and whatever they are earning, it is a part of retained earning. So thank you. We have completed our second chapter, that is basic concept of macroeconomics.